Okay, if you could go back in time, you could either vote for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Who would you rather vote for?
I would prefer Trump, but it's not what I thought it was going to be honest. But I'd still would go with Trump.
Okay. Why do you support Trump?
I support Trump because it affects my dad's business. Um, if we pay a lot of tax as it sits, and it just for the specific business that my dad's in, the oil field, he pays less tax. And also, I personally believe that there's only two genders. I do believe that being gay and being lesbian is real, but I feel like there's only like you can't really like change genders. You know what I mean?
What does being gay and being lesbian have to do with quote unquote changing genders?
I just feel like if you were born a man, you cannot change. You can't like
Yeah.
change to a woman.
What does it mean to be gay?
That you are attracted to the same sex. A man
Okay,
is
so that has
attracted to a
nothing to do
man.
with changing genders, right?
Yeah, but I believe parts
Okay.
of the LGBT to be like valid, and I support certain like stances in LGBTQ, right? But I don't support that a man can all of a sudden dress as a woman and say they're a woman and be able to go into the women's locker room. You know, like
That's not the
where do you
claim.
draw?
No one's claiming that. So we're specifically saying trans people, right? Trans people have valid
Yeah,
identities. Trans women are women. Trans men are men, and that's totally coherent.
yeah. So I just have a question though, Parker. I could tomorrow decide that I'm going to be a woman and all of a
Nope.
sudden go in the women's locker room. So how does that?
No.
So where do you draw the line? I guess.
Because it's released on your commitments. You clearly didn't have the commitments towards the particular social and cultural norms that are typically associated with the female sex as a prescription of your identity, right? So then that's like obviously
Right.
going to lead to you not being considered a woman.
But if I legitimately wanted to be a woman tomorrow, like you would support me in that?
There's no just like randomly you legitimately change your position on that. That's not how it works, right? These
Okay.
are innate desires that you have, not things that we just change and are like malleable based upon just feeling like it if we're cis. You know, you're a cis dude,
Yeah, yeah,
right? You
I
can't just
understand what you're
randomly
saying.
feel like it and do that. I think your point is that like people could lie and say that they're right, specifically trans when they're not. Well, you could do that right now and say that you're a trans man, and then walk into the changing rooms of women under your view because you think that trans men who are biologically female should go into women's restrooms. Under your view, you could just have cis men who don't have to change their presentation, just claim that they're trans men. And what are you going to do? Have genitalia inspections at the beginning of bathrooms?
Right. Specifically in my high school though, we had men that were claiming to be women and then they would go in the women's locker room and bathroom and say, "Oh, well now I'm a woman." And we were specifically having issues with like you're saying commitment issues. And like how do you tell
No,
someone
you aren't. That's just a lie. Bullshit. I don't believe you. I genuinely don't. I think that's bullshit.
I mean, I can't prove it to you, but we had men going into women's bathrooms that I don't believe fit your criteria. Like I said, commitment issue. You said that
So
I
if
could
they
be a
don't
woman
meet the
tomorrow.
criteria, then you're saying men were lying. You could do the same thing if you're saying you want to force trans men into going to the women's restroom. But I think you're lying, right? What if someone is trying to who's cis, who's trying to portray themselves as trans to be able to take advantage of women, right? You understand that they'd be more likely to portray themselves as a trans man as they're masculine presenting, comparative to presenting themselves as a trans woman. They'd have to change their presentation in order to do so. And also, if you don't want men in women's
That's
spaces,
a
why'd
fair
you vote
point.
for a guy that bragged about walking into the changing rooms of women while they're changing without their consent? Where an 18-year-old came out and said there were four girls as young as these changing rooms with Donald Trump would barge in.
That's a fair point. I'm not gonna lie, but like I feel like I agree more with Trump than I agree with Kamala. And like I said, I kind of stand in the middle, so it's kind of hard to like who do you vote for? Like when one person says stuff that I don't believe in, like, and then another thing is border security. Like I really do believe that we should have some sort of process on border security. Like we can't just have wide open border. We need to vet who's coming into our
Democrats believe
country.
in a process. They believe in a vetting process. We just think that like the best way to increase the vetting process is to go through the legal process quicker.
So
We need
what
a
would you
quicker
do
legal
with people that
process.
have broken the law already though?
No,
Like what would you
I
do
don't think
with
that they
the
should be punished if they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime. but my position does differ from the rest of the Democratic Party.
Okay.
I mean, they believe that there should be deportations for those that have not committed violent crimes or bad crimes, and I disagree with that. I think that's a bad thing.
Because we have where I live in Florida, we have agents and they're going out and like the ICE agents and they're like going up to Hispanic people and questioning, were you born here? And they're like totally harassing real legitimate US citizens.
ICE, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm confused. So you don't like Trump's ICE
But
policy on
I
ICE?
feel like I feel like we do need a process for immigration and we need to vet who's coming into our country. We can't have wide open borders. But I also think ICE
No one's
is
claiming that.
going about a terrible way of also getting rid of who's broken the law already. So I feel like we need to come up with some sort of way to let these people come into the country legally. Like I feel like it's too hard to immigrate here.
Yeah, I think that's because of policies like Donald Trump's
I
policies.
feel
And
like
Democrats are not advocating for open borders. This was a misnomer created by the Trump administration to try and act like they're somehow better on the border.
if we made it easier for people to move here, then we would have less people breaking the law to come here.
If you made it easier to go through the legal process, you've had less people coming through the process
Exactly.
undocumented. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's like the
Because
point we were
they see
making.
how, yeah, so that's what I mean by there's certain things that I support you with more than the red side. But like I said, it helps with taxes with my dad's business. And then I if I, and my last question is if I had a desire to be an animal, like would you support me in that, or like is that something that do you
No,
believe could take place? So so
no,
so, so
because I think an animal is something that's solely biological. Like think about it this way: we have names, right? Are our names biological?
yeah.
Yeah, they are.
No, no, they're not. No, sorry, I wasn't.
No, no,
I didn't
but
hear.
like it's totally coherent for us to have names, right?
Hmm.
So like the way that we're referring to gender in this context is similar to how we're utilizing names.
Right.
And if
Okay.
names are social and they don't require biology, then it would be totally coherent for us to do that with gender as well. Now,
Like a
it does
gender
not make
man,
sense
for
for us to
example.
do that with animals because animals are solely biological, like outside of
It's
human beings, of course.
so anything that you're saying, I could like anyone could have a desire to be in a specific set of cultural norms would have to be within the within humans, not within different species, is what you're saying.
Obviously, it's going to relate to human social constructs, yes. It's not going to
Yep.
relate to like other animals outside of humans. They don't have those types of social constructs.
So you can't change your age, basically, is what you're saying.
Obviously not, because that's based upon
Okay.
time elapsed. That's an objective criteria.
Okay. In God the Father, he also was he a man? What was he?
Well, people refer to him as a man and they use he, him pronouns to refer to him, but he has no biological sex characteristics. Are you Christian?
That's what I'm saying. Why are they calling him a man? If like where
Wait,
are they
are
getting
you
that he was
Christian?
a man? My family is, and I kind of am a little bit, but not super. Like I'm Catholic, but I don't really practice.
Okay,
If that answers it.
okay. Then it sounds like you are just agreeing with us that like gender is used in a social connotation.
Like I said, I just don't understand like where you draw the line. Like I said, like if I had a real desire to be a woman, then you would say I'm a woman. But if I don't have a desire to be a woman, then I'm not. Then you're saying I'm not a woman. Like
You have
where
a
do you
desire
say
to be in
okay this
accordance with
person's
a desire to be in accordance with a certain set of criteria that are typically associated with the sexes as a prescription of identity. So yes, if you truly did have that desire, yes, it would be under that categorization. But you don't. You're not trans.
yeah
That's like saying like right anything like you're like that's like in terms of talking about gay people like if I had that attraction would I be gay? Yes, genuinely. If you had that attraction towards men, you'd be gay. That's like asking that question. If I had that
right.
desire, would I actually be gay? Yes.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm
Right?
glad that we can at least have like a legitimate like civil conversation about it, and we're not like throwing out stuff that I see online. People just wrote like I'm just like legitimately like trying to figure this out. And I understand what you're saying now. I'd have to legitimate like okay, I have another question. Does it matter what age I decided that I wanted to be a woman? Like what if I came out tomorrow that I wanted to be a woman, for example? Would you support me in that? If I legitimately wanted to be a woman.
The
And
thing
I'm
is,
not just saying that
we know it's not legitimate. There's no
but
possible
what if
scenario where it's legitimate because you're cis.
yeah, but Caitlyn Jenner decided later on in life. She thought she was a man at first.
No,
Like she identified
she
as a
came
man for
out
many
later in
years.
life, right? You're not someone who's come out later in life. You're someone who's arguing against the identity, right? So it's
Right.
very clear to me that you don't actually like have those desires. Also, what state do you live in?
Florida,
What time is it?
413.
Can you name three cities in Florida?
Jacksonville, West Palm Beach, Miami.
Name three more.
Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete,
What's the capital?
Jacksonville,
No?
Tallahassee.
Yep. Okay, I do believe you now. But yeah, people in the comment section thought you were Canadian for some reason.
Well, I do have family in Canada,
Yeah, I mean
but
you do sound like partially like Canadian, like you have a Canadian accent,
well,
but
yeah,
like
like that's where my grandparents are from Canada, and then my dad moved to
yeah,
Florida for work.
yeah, that makes sense. Like yeah, I was just saying
But like,
you're
I
a
can
real
look at
Florida
it from
man.
I can look at it from a Canadian perspective because like I do have family there and I do visit. And I will have to ask you, um, your beliefs they kind of align with like like I feel like you'd be better off in Canada almost the way you're talking about your politics. I feel like if you ran for Canadian Prime Minister, you'd do well. Would you ever consider running in any sort of Canadian government?
No?
But you could have a successful career in Canadian politics.
Why only Canadian politics?
No, I'm just saying because I don't know. I just feel like you represent what Canada is more than America. Like, because it like I just feel like there's.
I've never lived in Canada. I wouldn't do that. I've never once
Have you
lived in
ever
Canada.
visited Canada?
No, I actually haven't even.
No. Like, would you?
I
Okay,
would
I
love
think
to visit Canada, but like
my opinion. I think maybe you should visit Canada and talk to some of your Canadian fans, and also get it from their
well,
perspective too. What do you think?
I bet Canadians would agree with me a lot, but it wouldn't make sense for me to move to Canada. There are plenty of other people that have my positions that live in Canada, right?
Some of my Canadian relatives found it extremely disrespectful, and I do too, that how Trump would mock Canada as becoming the 51st state. That was
That is
extremely
incredibly disrespectful. Like it
that's
was
extremely disrespectful to a sovereign nation.
it is very disrespectful to a sovereign nation. And you see Trump supporters, they don't give a about it. It was like you must care about that. Like they didn't just do it with Canada, they did it with Greenland and Panama, right? That's ridiculous. And for being the president of the United States, the largest country, largest GDP, largest military, right? Like that's definitely a threat. Like that is a real threat. There, that's really scary and disrespectful. Like genuinely. So like I
Yeah,
believe in a huge friendship between Canada and the United States. I love our friendship, and I think that that needs to be emboldened to a greater extent. And I think that Canadians don't like our relationship because of the fact that Trump is president. It's because of the crazy politics that we have. He's literally
yeah.
ruined our relationship with Canada for at least the time being.
No, I think it's like I said, my Canadian relatives, they will not step foot in the U.S. and they want nothing to do with supporting American business at this time. And a lot of the world views Canada is like all of Canada, all of America being like some this like screwed up, self-hating country.
So yeah,
But
so like again, why do you like Trump then? Like it sounds like you shouldn't like Trump.
like I said, I don't like his personality. I don't like who he is. But like I said, it helps my dad's business. And I do prefer his border policy. I don't like the way
Okay,
he's
like
going
wait,
about it. But
not to be too personal, but does your dad like make over 400 grand a year?
yes,
Okay, so you're saying because of a slight benefit to your dad, you're willing to like hurt the country because that's
I'm not trying
realistically
to
what it
like.
does. Because like
I'm
realistically,
not
for
like.
everyone else, taxes go up.
I'm not like fully trying to like completely like throw myself under, but like, and a lot of us like Republicans, like it comes from our parents. So like, what would you say to people that it's because they were born a certain way and they were told to support certain things that will get scolded in their own home. What would you say to those
Hey,
Republicans
dude,
that
I
they
grew
kind of
up in a
have mixed kind
conservative
of
Christian
beliefs?
household, right?
You
I
did?
know, yes, I literally grew up in a conservative Christian household. In high school, I was a Trump supporter. I know the pressures that you're
No
talking
way.
about. All you've got to do is pave your own path. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's literally just think for yourself, critically think, analyze it for yourself. Don't just believe things because
Yeah,
people around you do so. Break the same cycle that you're specifically saying exists. And also, you can think differently. Just because it negatively impacts your dad slightly doesn't mean that you can't have
yeah.
that position, right? The idea that you have in your head that you have to specifically support that side just because it's going to be slightly more beneficial to your parents is a bit ridiculous. Like, you're going to be fine either way. Like, under a Democratic administration, you guys will be doing fine.
I don't want to like disappoint my parents though. That's like kind of the issue. Like they raised me a certain way. Like they think about it this way.
Then give them
They
an
work
argument.
hard every day.
Give them an argument. And if you disappoint your parents,
Yeah.
that's okay. You understand, like, one thing that I've come to understand is that you can disappoint people in the short term, but it is the case that in the long run you can end up changing their mind. They might be disappointed with you because they disagree with your perspective. Like for example, my parents are Christian, right? My mom wants
Yep.
me to be a Christian too, right? So to
Yep.
a certain extent, like, she definitely wants that, but then also has become to like gotten to an ability through the long term to appreciate who I am as a person, the fact that I'm critical, and I am not going to just have a position because I've been, pressured into that position. I'm going to have the position because I actually have that position. And that genuine nature, I think, matters the most. You can have disagreements. You're allowed to disagree with your parents, and you shouldn't feel like you should just have to have this position because you want to people please and you don't want to let down your parents, right? It's totally genuine to have your own
Yeah.
positions, and you deserve the right to be able to do that.
I agree, but everyone wants to make their parents proud.
Yeah, I get you. But I've been able to make
And
my parents proud without agreeing with them.
yeah. Yep. No,
Maybe
I know
maybe the
you've
same
become
thing's
a
not
very
true with your parents, but
successful.
I
Yeah.
bet it's true as well. I bet you can make your parents proud without fully agreeing with them on this.
You don't really talk on your platform a lot about how you were at one point a Trump supporter
Hmm.
and you came from a Christian family. I was always under the impression that your parents had any sort of influence on like what you're preaching, essentially.
My parents definitely had an influence over the way that I view myself now, where the way that I view myself when I was a kid, and the ideological beliefs I've had throughout my life. I feel like a lot of the values that I grew up believing were actually liberal values, and we didn't know it.
The problem is like the liberal poli like I loved Obama. I thought like he was like a great example of what our liberal party should look like. But I feel like more recently it's changed. It's not what it used to be. Like that's kind of my opinion.
Sure, but I don't think Kamala Harris is that much distinct from Barack Obama. I really don't. Like, they have very similar positions. If not, I would say Kamala Harris has like very, very, very solid positions. Like, I really don't know what policies people are disagreeing with Kamala Harris on. I think she was a genuinely solid candidate comparative to what we've had historically,
She was well
especially.
spoken. She was well spoken. But I guess what I'm scared about, and I didn't even want to get into this because I want people in the comments kind of like roasting me. But like, you look at the price of groceries in Canada. You look at inflation. You look at the price of houses. Like my cousin's 32, and he has $100,000 job, and he cannot afford a house. In what world do you go to college and you make six figures and you're successful and you do everything right, and because you don't have your parents' help, you cannot afford a house? The houses where my cousin's from, near Toronto, they're like $700,000 for the worst house ever. In Florida here, you can buy a house for 300 grand. So
Yeah,
what would you say to those that voted for Trump solely because they believe that he's a better candidate for not image, not making America look good and all that, but just solely on the fact that they believe that they're going to be better off for their families, putting food on the table, et cetera, et cetera.
they're just not true. If you make under $400,000 a year, you pay less in taxes under a Harris administration comparative to a Trump administration. The only people that pay less taxes in this country because of the fact that Donald Trump is in office is people whose income is over 400,000. It's only on their income over 400,000 a year. So I promise you, you can live fine on that much anywhere in the United States. You're gonna be good, right? Anywhere in the United States, you're gonna be better than
Not in,
everyone
it didn't work
else.
out for Canada though. Canada is ultra
And now,
liberal, and
now
it's
let me
not
talk about
working out.
Canada. So big
Yeah.
cities are like this. Very, very big cities where people want to live. There is very, very high demand for housing. Now, this is a problem that exists in practically every big city. And Republicans don't have a policy to address this in any meaningful way. Like, genuinely, no policy to address this. What is a policy to address this? Well, we have to have certain ordinances for building up. We have to have certain ordinances for what's called for expanding housing development in places where people want to live, like tax credits, right? And
Yeah.
maybe we'll see some change over time, but nowhere has been able to find a full 100% fix and solution. The reality is big cities like Toronto, big cities like Los Angeles, big cities like New York are very expensive because
Yes.
so many people want to live there, and that raises demand on these particular types of scenarios. So, really, all you can do is try to increase competition to sort of bring down those prices.
Plus, I don't know if you're familiar, but like Canada has let in a lot of immigrants, particularly from Indian descent, and they came and they've taken a lot of our jobs. Like you go in any like fast food restaurant, it's
No,
all
this is wrong.
Indian. All
So it's just
go
wrong.
to
It's
Canada.
just
Go to
like
Canada.
think no. What you need to realize is that actually I can send you a study from the National Bureau of Economic Research that there is an increase in employment, there's an increase in GDP, and an increase in wages from there being an increase in the level of immigration. The idea that there's some sort of replacement is literally a right wing talking point that's propagandistic. They're not taking your jobs. They're increasing employment rate.
Can we at least agree though that like the U.S. citizen should come first? I feel like we should be taking care of our own people before we go help other
So so
people.
so we shouldn't be giving $40 billion to Argentina, right?
No,
We should be spending that money here at home. And if we want to help
we are.
Americans first, we can't be putting the rich first who are already taken care of. We got to be putting the 99%, the bottom 99% first, not the top 1%.
Yeah.
And the
We
reality
are on
is
the.
Kamala Harris's plan would decrease taxes for working class Americans, would expand tax credits for child tax credits to help families out so that people have food and money and things to be able to take care of their household needs. And then also advocating for housing tax credit. Donald Trump didn't have a housing affordability policy. Donald Trump didn't have a healthcare plan. He said concepts of a plan. Donald Trump didn't have working and operating plans. He said things like drill, baby, drill, and then literally hasn't even followed through with that. What has been the drilling? He said he was going to be a dictator on day one and drill, baby, drill. But what happened to that? I haven't
Well,
seen
Trump
that.
does a lot of talking. Trump does a lot of talking, but we are on the verge of a nuclear war, in my opinion.
No, we're not.
Explain.
What you tell me?
Why?
You have to explain what nuclear war?
With Russia, Ukraine? Like, I'm not saying it
No,
involves the U.S.,
no,
but
I
like,
don't. I don't think. I don't think that we're at a threat of a nuclear war with Russia and Ukraine
okay.
at this point. I think that threat has already gone past because Biden already responded to that on behalf of Russia. They threatened to nuke Ukraine, and Biden dealt with them. Biden, the administration. So thanks to the Biden, this is what I mean. Biden's got to take credit for shit. He doesn't take credit for shit. And now, if he was like Trump, that would have been like the main talking point.
No,
Okay,
I
Biden
agree.
prevented nuclear war. Like, can you imagine if that happened under Trump? Trump would literally be like, "I prevented nuclear war. I'm the peace president." Under Democrats, there you'd all be dead. I promise you that. You'd every single one of you. You'd all be blown up in a little big cloud, a little big mushroom.
Do you think that Trump plans to stay? Like, why would he do such a major renovation on the White House if he plans to leave in 3 years? Like that is another thing.
Are
Why
you
would he?
are you really saying that he's going to stay past the time that he constitutionally
I
can?
feel like it is a possibility
Yeah, and
because
that's
why would
bad,
you
and
do
that's
such?
really bad. That's like anti-democratic, and that's bad. And also, like, yeah, he destroyed. I actually went to that aspect of the White House, and it was absolutely beautiful. And he destroyed it.
Yeah.
He destroyed it. There's literally no reason he did that. Literally
I
no
think
reason at all.
I can speak for some of my friends that I don't think they necessarily like a lot of what Trump's doing, like what he stands for, none of that. I just think they'd rather deal with those types of problems than have a female president. And I
Oh,
don't know
okay,
why.
okay. So they're misogynist. They're misogynistic. So specifically, what about there being a woman who's president is bad?
I just don't think that we've ever had one before, and I think they need to see a preview of what that would look like. And we don't
Okay, so
have anything.
then you understand that never voting for women will never give them that quote unquote preview. Also, women have been leaders around the entire world. Women have been leaders here in the United States. Women have been CEOs. Women have been in positions of power. And actually, based upon the situations, they typically do significantly better.
Yeah. I didn't, like I said, I didn't mind Kamala Harris. Like,
Yeah, so like again, here's the question I ask every single one of them. If Kamala Harris and Donald Trump swapped bodies, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris body, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump's body, who would you vote for? Because seemingly they're either going to have to say that under their view, because they believe that gender is biological, that they think that they would vote for a woman over a man, right? Or they have to say specifically that they would support Kamala Harris, right, in Donald Trump's body because they're so misogynistic. But then they're saying that they don't actually care about the characteristics, the policy, the personality, or anything about the candidate, just that they're a man or a woman, which is embarrassing.